Hi, I'm Colleen Bellahork, and I'm presenting how to increase basketball performance after a collegiate season using the transitional period between the collegiate season and combine testing. I'm going to talk about the player position and the movement patterns that they do and the physiological effects that those movement patterns have. I'm going to establish physiological priorities and how those are tested for, and present a few injuries that can happen on and off the court. I'm also going to present a case study of a 20-year-old hopeful for the NBA. He has been invited to participate in the combine testing, which begins approximately 19 weeks after the end of his season. So we're going to identify his physiological strengths and weaknesses, use that information for his training priorities, and develop a program that will hopefully increase his success at the combine testing by making him a more well-rounded player. So let's begin. So basketball is a mixture of high intensity, medium intensity, and low intensity movement done by all three player positions: the guard, the forward, and the center. And as you can see in this chart, all three positions do participate in the same movement patterns at approximately the same proportion of their live time. This is a study of 19-year-old elite basketball players. There is variation in which positions participate in more movement styles than the other. For example, guards have a higher proportion of their live time compared to the other two with their sprints and high intensity movements, whereas centers have a higher proportion of the lower intensity walking and standing. And this is related to their positions. Guards need to be able to block the opponent from getting to the basket. They need to be able to run to catch up if they are behind. They need to be able to jump to block the shot or get the rebound from a missed shot and then maneuver that ball to their own player so they can take them to the basket. The center is the player most likely to be under the basket, waiting to receive that ball, and then they have that explosive jump to make the slam dunks and the jump shots. And your forwards tend to be right on the average percentage, right in between the guards and the centers. Now, again, all three player positions participate in all levels, so there can be a little bit of overlap in their jobs where a guard might find themselves close to the basket and they need to have that explosive power to make that jump to do the slam dunk or get the rebound on the offense, versus the defense or the forward or center might be behind a little bit. They need to be able to move quickly to block that shot or get that rebound. So all players move quickly, slowly, and in between. In the course of the game, the 4 quarters, heart rates do tend to stay elevated for the majority of it. They spend up to 95% of their live time at an 85% or higher heart rate maximum. Towards the end of the game, in the 4th quarter, the heart rate isn't as high, and this could be because of more stoppages in play, whether there's more free throws, more substitutions, or players at this point are just getting tired and they might not be moving as quickly. When looking at player blood lactate levels, averaging 5.5, but the range can be from 3 to 13. It all depends on when the sample was taken. It's going to be higher if a player is coming off the court just doing a full-on sprint versus a player who might have been standing around. The blood lactate has already started to clear. Bottom line here is blood lactate does accumulate in the blood, and they do need to be able to get rid of it quickly and efficiently. So all that being said, I've established these 4 as the physiological priorities that a basketball player should have. Number 1, the agility. So they need to be able to move around other players to get to their basket quickly, to get to the other basket quickly. Multi-directional movement is very important in basketball. Oxidative capacity, number 2, that means that the high intensity exercise followed by the low intensity exercise. That's when the lactate needs to be cleared. The players need to be able to do that quickly so they can repeat that high level of intensity the same as the previous. That's where the high aerobic capacity, number 3, comes into play. They need to be able to repeat high and low, have efficient lactate clearance, repeat the high and low intensity. And the anaerobic power, this is part of their acceleration, getting to the ball quickly, moving the ball quickly, jumping to get a rebound, jumping to make a shot. All 4 of these things are important, and a player needs to be able to have a high capability of all 4 of these things in order to be a successful player. How do we test for these values? There's a number of tests that coaches and researchers have done, and they are not limited to what is on the screen. The basic height, weight, body fat, your qualitative data, anaerobic power and capacity, so measured by maximum sprint testing and the Wingate test. And the Wingate test also measures the the aerobic capacity. Your upper and lower body strength, this is maybe a 1 rep max test of a squat, a lunge, a power clean, or a bench press, or maybe it's how many reps at this weight can an athlete do. The lower limb power, measured by your jump testing, your horizontal and vertical jumps, how high or how far can they jump from a dead stop, from 1 step, from a run? Can they repeat it? All of that measures the lower limb power. And finally, agility and speed. Your timed sprint test, your shuttle runs, completing how many rounds in a certain amount of time, and your multi-directional tests, your T-test or your CODAT, all help measure agility and speed. Common injuries are, again, not limited to what's here, but basically an athlete can get injured on or off the court. It may be a result of a muscular imbalance that wasn't picked up in a movement screen, or it may be a player is not paying attention, takes an elbow to the head, ends up getting a concussion, is tired, he trips over his own feet, bruises a knee or twists an ankle. This can be predictable through muscular testing, but it can also just be related to gameplay and then the speed of the game. So it is important for an athlete to be paying attention. This is also where the fatigue factor comes in. A tired athlete is more likely to get injured versus a well-rested athlete. All that being said, it's time to look at our case study. So here is the data, how Chris measures up against other people who have completed the combine testing. So looking for his strengths and his weaknesses. His strengths, his size actually is a strength for his position as a guard. He should be able to maneuver in and out quickly, even though he is that little bit smaller. Guards do tend to be smaller. Going near the bottom, his bench press score above the average, indicating that he has a high number of type 1 muscle fibers, so he has the aerobic endurance. And then looking below at his VO2 max score, even though it is below what the average number is, research has shown that 50 or above is great for a basketball athlete. So for Chris, being above 50 is still one of his strengths. Looking at his weaknesses, right off the bat you can see it is his jumping, his vertical jump, his step, his no step. This means he does not have the type 2 muscle fibers to give him the power to have successful jumps. So in a gameplay, he might be falling behind. He's not able to get that rebound at the basket quickly. He's not able to make the slam dunk on the opposite side of the room. So he needs to develop that jump strength. his agility and his sprint also slower than average. This is where, again, he doesn't have the type 2 fibers to help give him the power of that acceleration to get to either basket quickly. So what do we need to do with Chris over his training? We need to increase the number and the force of his type 2 muscle fibers. That's going to help increase his speed and his power. And we do need to work on his agility scores, because basketball is multi-directional, and we need to develop and maintain his alactic and glycolytic pathways so he is able to repeat his high intensity and low intensity activities in the game. So looking ahead to the program design, you can see that there are 6 mesocycles, and you can see the number of workouts associated each week. The first mesocycle post-recovery, that's his recovery from the collegiate season that he just completed. There are no planned workouts for this time. His adaptation and stability, focusing on building the type 1 muscle fibers, learning neuromuscular patterns, doing strength twice a week, agility, plyometrics, maybe some anaerobic training once a week. And all of those latter 3 can be done in one session, or maybe if there's time, done after a strength session. His strength mesocycle, again, 4 weeks, so you're going to have, 2 to 3 strengths, a little more intense than your adaptation, and 1 of the other 3. Again, so continuing to build his muscular patterns, his type 1. When we switch to the power phases, so there's 2 power phases, the strength volume drops and the plyometric agility anaerobic volumes increase, and this is done twice. Now in all of the 4 middle mesocycles, the final week is built in as a taper week, so 2 or 3 weeks of intensity followed by 1 week where volume is cut back, to allow Chris to rest and to maintain the benefits of the weeks of training. Chris is also going to be working with his coach on the basketball court, so that's going to add into his fatigue. So the more efficient we can be with our workouts, the better it is for Chris. And there is no set aerobic training program for him because he is working with his coach. He's going to be getting his aerobic training there when he's working with the coach and doing his basketball specific drills, so there is no need to add that in. And then the final week, the taper, this is when volume is really low, maybe a strength, maybe a plyometric, and agility, just to remind his body of the patterns, but still giving it rest so he can peak at the combine testing. So more specifically on off-season transition weeks 1 and 2, focusing on stretching, refresh the mental energy, no specific workouts. Adaptation, stabilization, the 4-week phase, doing the functional movement screen to identify imbalances and weaknesses, learning the movement. So build those neuromuscular pathways early. So when it comes to doing higher intensity, the pathway is there. Now we're just adding the strength component, we're adding the power component later. This is going to help him reduce the likelihood of getting injured, and it's going to, like I said, it's going to lay the groundwork for the future cycles. 3 weeks build, 1 week cut back. Strength, so you can see the intensity of the strength working below 1 rep max, 70 to 80%. 3 sets, 8 to 12. Again, 3 weeks build, 1 week cut back. Plyometric and agility exercises, laying the groundwork. So this is staying on the floor with low height, jumping or jumping down on. So build the strength, work on ankle flexibility and strength, knee strength, core strength, absolutely. Moving into our power phases, now there's that decrease in the resistance component and the increase in the agility and plyometrics. So we're starting to mimic more of the basketball movements. So the type 1 muscle fibers and the increased number of motor units that that Chris has been able to build in the last mesocycle. We're starting to increase the force production, starting to recruit more of the type 2 muscle fibers. The plyometric and agility exercises are more explosive, and they're more difficult. They have more a larger multi-directional component, starting to mimic more of the on-court movements. Shuttle runs and time sprints now have started as the increased anaerobic training, and these might be starting to be done for time. Last mesocycle, the final power cycle, so strength exercises. Again, the intensity has increased, but still only once a week. Plyometric and agility exercises. This is our focus in the final 3 weeks. He's built the base of the motor units, the neural activation, starting to recruit all those type 2 muscle fibers. Now we're starting to ask for that higher rate of force production, starting to jump higher, starting to jump farther, repeating these jumps, so starting to stress the anaerobic system, stress his recovery. Can he do high intensity, low intensity repeatedly, just like he is in the game? And his shuttle run and sprinting, are these improving at this point? Yes, they are. He is covering more distance, or he is getting faster with them. And then the final week is the taper, where he's going to rest, maybe do 1 workout a week, maybe get a massage, focus on the nutrition, talking to his coach, seeing what's best. So the following 5 slides talk about some of these movements that Chris will do. The first one is developing the agility exercises, starting with lateral drills, moving side to side, front and going forward and back over the line, taking it to the ladder, increasing your ankle strength, your neuromuscular adaptations, and these can progress to the time drills, or how many lateral hops can he do in 10 seconds, and it helps build a framework for the other drills. Developing his multi-directional speed starts with your standard box, forward, side, back, side to the beginning. Make it more complex, make the box bigger, do it faster, move the cones around, add the multi-directional, change of speed aspect, time it, make it longer. There are ways to increase the intensity of this. This is how he has to move through the court, change direction on a snap. So he needs to be able to practice this, build those the neuromuscular patterns, and he'll be great on the court. Developing the explosive power, this is the box jump. So building the neuromuscular patterns by doing the jump on the ground, finding that load, increasing the number of motor units, add that explosive jump up. Those type 2 muscle fibers are working, repeating it, so getting that alactic capacity and his anaerobic efficiency up. He's on the court, he is shooting, he is dunking, he is jumping to get rebounds and anti-block shots. This is very important for him. Developing reactional power, so when he's blocking the shot, he's up high, he needs to catch it, move quickly, so drop jump. That's how we build it, same as the box jump. We build the patterns, and then you rebound and you move the ball. So same build up as the box jump. And the final slide is just a combination of how we can put them together. The drop jump to the side shuffle movement. You jump up, you get the ball, you got to clear it out. That's going to show what he does in the game. So to summarize, 19 weeks in his off season, Chris is going to be ready for that combine. We've increased the number of type 2 muscle fibers. We've made him more agile. We've made him faster. We've increased his alactic capacity. Chris will have a wonderful test if he can follow his program. And thank you very much for watching.